Yes, Phil has marked the beginning of episode 14. Thank you,
Sorry.
Mark. Thank you.
Sorry.
We are trying something brand new, so that's why we're being wacky and crazy. I would love to help out, so let me help out.
There you go.
So we're back, and we're going to be doing some great stuff. Let me turn this off. And Phil has been putting our board together, right? And telling us all the things we're going to talk about tonight. So Phil, tonight you're going to take over and lead us.
All right, so welcome to Left Coast Gamer Chat, episode 14. I'm Phil. With me is Mark. Say hi, Mark.
Hello.
And Paul, I guess you could say hi as well.
I guess I could say hi as well.
We'll let him in today.
I
I'll
guess
be here
so.
all week.
A podcast better not last that long. All right, so we got a show tonight. So we'll talk about what we've been doing, what we're going to do in the future, and lots of our feelings on the new Bolt Action 3.0 revelations that have been dropping this past month. And Warward's been doing a good job about doing it. But first, let's go into what we've been doing since July when we had our last one. So, Mark, what have you been playing, and what have you been painting lately?
Thank you for asking, Phil. I've been playing a Stalingrad campaign with Paul here, so that's been really fun. We played last week. I'll let Paul talk about it since I played so horribly, and he can just rub my nose in it. And so that was last week. We played that. I've been playing some Chain of Command, the Bloody Bucket campaign, and also had a horrible week with that. So it was just real bad, and good times. What about you guys? What's going on with you guys?
Well,
Paul, you want to go?
I was playing with Mark. I don't know if we even mentioned the Dawn Crossing, if that was something that was in our last podcast, but I think we should cover it anyways. It was really nail biting because it was one of those games where I was across the river and I had to jump across the river against Mark, who had these beautiful trenches and high ground and stuff. And we were both looking at the game after turn one and going, oh man, you just still want to play, Paul? And I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I drove all the way up here. Let's do it. And then after turn two, Mark was like, I'd totally be okay with you if you want to quit. It looked so grim. And I ended up winning. It was so weird.
Yes.
And it was some lucky stuff at the end. We weren't even doing smoke right. If we had been doing smoke right, my smoke would have been hitting way more correctly, but it came in clutch right at the end, which was...
Yeah, and your artillery shell came in and cleared off my one side of my board.
So there was two clutch moments, but literally I got I think 3 units across the river.
Yes, it was
and
3.
you wiped out one like that. And then my other 2 were just hanging on by a thread. And that was all the way till turn 5. Things just looked grim.
It was a cat and mouse though, because of how the terrain was. I couldn't get your man, and then I'm being inexperienced, and you having veterans, and so it was just a good, you had to think out every move for sure.
And what helped is I concentrated on one hill and just suppressed the other. So that meant if he wanted to come at me, he'd have to run across the open, and I still had lots of covering fire. So it was tricky. I didn't even think of it. It was just luck that I had that covering fire.
It's called tactics, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you focused on your one point of attack for sure.
Well, if it were tactics, then I wouldn't have bought the 2 Kuba wagons, which could never enter the river because the entire river side of my river was forests, broken terrain. So
this is
bought
details.
These 2 vehicles, and I just had fun running back and forth. I went and picked up the spotter and moved him. It's just
details.
I had to have some fun. Looked like I was just dead. And then we played scenario 3, and that was intense.
For you,
which scenario was that?
So that's
was that Spartanovka?
Yeah, right. What you said.
Spartanovka.
And it's a river, and on one side of the river is a village, which we painstakingly created. It was really cool making it. And then on the other side is all this flat ground, plus his trenches, plus this huge, beautiful factory that you bought.
Yeah, I painted it, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to see it.
Yes.
So he was hidden out. He put his sniper and his spotters in the factory, so just to overlook the entire board. And I was I think rightfully so scared of those snipers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Just they were single-handedly saying, "Yeah, come on out, Commander." So my commander hid almost the entire game until I was actually able to get the sniper, and I was like throwing everything at that sniper.
You were.
Yeah. And finally, I just had to say, forget it, and I rushed, and he killed so much when I rushed. But he was supposed to outflank me, and I knew it. And his outflanking rolls never went. He just never got the outflank to go. And so I had this whole army sitting there waiting. When are they coming? When are they coming? I don't think they're coming.
And then I had the rare experience of, I think I hit every time I rolled with my mortar.
Yes.
But then every time I would get either a one
hit,
or just horrible like pins. So he would only get one pin, and I'd hit with the heavy mortar over and over again. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was weird because I would be like, oh God, I'm dead. How many? Oh, you get 5 guys. Okay. And then he'd roll like 1s and 2s. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Horrible
So I lose one guy. And he was like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Bad day of rolling for me, for sure.
Yeah. And
so did the game end on turns then before the reinforcements came? The outflankers came?
No, they finally did show up.
Yeah, they had to come in piecemeal, and they just got destroyed. It was just a bad situation at the end of the game for me.
But I did rush that portion of the bridge and got mowed down.
You did.
Yeah,
you did.
I just, but I ended up winning like 15-5 or something.
Right.
It was
the one cool thing is I got to have 3 inexperienced tanks on the board, which I don't think I've ever had that many tanks in bolt action before.
Yeah, and that was fun. A really great rule. I'm looking forward to the difference that will make in bolt action V3.
I guess that we could segue into bolt action V3 if you guys want now.
Well, we haven't heard what Phil's done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we haven't heard what Phil's done. Sorry about that.
So Mark, why did you pick inexperienced tanks? Is that what the scenario said?
They replace your free squad with a tank, and then you can take 2 more inexperienced tanks, which they're called factory tanks. So they have some limitations to them. Yeah, and it was really cool, but you know how it starts out. The first tank, Paul starts out first roll, boom, 1 tank's gone. So it's like, okay, this is not going to be.
What kind of tanks did you have?
T-34s.
Oh, okay.
T-34s, yeah.
And snipers dominating. My sniper took out his captain or major.
Yeah.
Was it a major or a captain?
It was a captain, I believe. Yeah.
And
that was my guy I took for messenger. You know, it was going to be my whole plan to control that side, and so. First 2 rolls, tank done, captain done. So, it's...
Yeah, that's why I think in V3 they're going to change snipers dramatically, and they need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're more familiar with what they're going to do in the V3, but I'm sure it needs to be changed a little bit for sure.
All right. So before we get to V3, then I'll talk about what I've been doing.
Yeah, let's go.
And actually, so far, it's just been a month of Battletech. So the Battletech Mercenaries Kickstarter delivered. And I've got basically 100 new mechs for me to paint.
Okay, yeah, you were talking about last time waiting for that Kickstarter, so it came in.
It arrived, and I'm running a game at the Strategicon on Labor Day, which is about a month away, and I need to paint maybe a dozen more things, and I should be able to do that without much trouble. But
no, I meant to ask you, Phil, are there heroes in this game? Like some of the mechs are better, like are leaders, or like have better, characteristics.
You can do that. So each mech has different skills. So you could, when you buy your force, you could basically cost each mech and give it whatever skill you want. So you could give them all good skills. You could have an elite group. You could have a bunch of low-level planetary militia and make them all terrible. So it's up to you. So you certainly have a choice.
Very good. So sorry I interrupted you. So Strategicon's all set.
Yeah. So Strategicon is August 31st. August 30th, I think, through September 2nd at the LAX Hilton. I'm running a game on that Sunday. I know there are other games. I'm not sure what historical games are on the calendar yet. I didn't see there were much there yet, but submissions are still being accepted, I think, for another week. So not all the games have been finalized yet.
So
Phil, give us your secrets to parking at the hotel down there.
What I do, since I've been burned by trying to spend like an hour trying to park in the past, what I do now is I just prepay like $30, $30 to $35 usually at the parking spot, which is right next door, and I get the valet parking. I heard once that if you do valet parking and you hand over your keys, basically they are responsible for what happens to your car. If you self-park, you are responsible for what happens to your car, even if it's their lot.
And so if you're running a game, how do you bring all your stuff and unload and all that?
It's next to the hotel, and actually, all I have is a suitcase full of terrain and an extra bag and a mat. So it's stuff that I could all carry. Basically from basically the parking building out to the next. So there is a loading area. I know that I don't need to do it because I'm not taking that much stuff. Okay. But some of the other people who I don't know if they're staying at the hotel or if they just have more stuff, how they bring it all in.
Sure. That was one of my major questions on how to juggle all that, because sometimes, like with bolt action, sometimes you feel like you're moving your whole house in to play a game. So.
And it's a lot less. It's a lot less. So I mean, I think I've got 40 to 50 mechs and some terrain, but it's all 6mm, so it's not a tremendous amount of terrain and mats and stuff like that. So.
All right.
So what else is coming up? I mean, I know Pacificon is coming up. I see Paul or Mark. Do you know anything about that?
It's not me. It's Paul, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Pacificon is way up in the Northwest, right? Because Strategicon is down here, and Pacificon is way up there in. When I say way up there, I mean San Francisco.
Hey, that's up there.
Still kind of way up. It's not like Seattle.
I thought you were saying Seattle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I had to qualify that real fast.
So, are you going up there, Paul?
No, not this year. Probably next year.
Have you attended it before?
Yes, I used to live in that area, and attended it. Loved it. It was a great area to go and do some gaming. I'm trying to figure out where. So the guys that run Strategicon run Orcon, GameX, and Gateway. So they must be doing Gateway during Labor Day.
Yes.
Okay. So that's exciting. Let's see. Orcon was in February. GameX,
President's Day weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it was in May. GameX was in May. Gateway is Labor Day. Yeah. And I'm not finding the venue. Other info, maybe?
For Strategicon, I mean, that's the LAX Hilton.
It is the LAX Hilton. Okay.
Pacificon is what you're looking for?
Yes, Pacificon. Thank you. Did I say Strategicon? I meant Strategicon.
Yeah, you were.
But I was saying Pacificon for the
Game Expo, Labor Day weekend in San Francisco.
Yes, thank you.
Santa Clara Marriott Hotel.
Yes, that's where it is. And what's the date?
August 30th, September 2nd. August 30th, September 2nd.
Okay. So it's the same weekend, but in San Francisco. So initially, I was right. I just got my Pacificon and Strategicon mixed up, which is pretty normal for me.
Sure. Right on.
We send your hate mail to, yeah.
Yes. You may send donations too. So let's see. Scheduled forums. They've got tons of stuff going on.
And I see they're connected to the Conquest Ventura, which I missed in July, which I didn't really know about. I guess I missed the boat on that. But Ventura's been having this convention recently every once in a while. So hopefully I was going to get out there and do a bolt action demonstration.
I will help you with that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll let you guys know the next one because he's been setting them up. So.
And I'm browsing the Pacificon calendar of events, which is there now, and they have 41 historical miniature games on the schedule right now.
Yeah, NorCal guys are really into the gaming for sure. I've noticed that.
So yeah, they got DBA. They got a bunch of stuff. Charlie Don't Surf. They got a lot good variety of games all throughout the weekend.
But in their defense, they've been doing this for so long.
Sure.
I mean, we're maybe talking 30 or 40 years.
Sure,
this going on, because I went to it when I was just a kid and loved it. Yeah.
Back in the 90s, Paul?
Actually earlier. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that's exciting. I want to go to Strategicon. Actually, I would love to do our podcast from Strategicon. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to just get a little table and sit up.
Mm-hmm. And we could do a little mini cast at Phil's table with all his Battletech, and he could take us through a
I'll be there Sunday. Yep.
Okay, of the Labor Day?
Yeah, and it's Sunday, right?
Oh, wait. I'm going to a concert on Sunday of Labor Day. I'm sorry.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so maybe another day.
Another day.
You're going to concert on Sunday?
Yeah, it's John Fogerty in Santa Barbara.
Wow. He's talking about dating us.
Dating us, yes.
All the cool kids don't listen to that these days?
No.
I don't. You're not on TikTok there, Phil? You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that. I missed that. Yeah.
So are we on the con update? Is that it? Or do we...
Mini Wars is coming up in October, right?
September. 26th,
September, okay.
27th, 28th.
Okay.
And we just released that we're going to have gaming that Friday night from about 5 to 10-ish. It's approximate right now. We don't have the actual time yet, but we're hoping for gaming Friday evening. And then parking is free.
Sweet.
That was said to me so many times that I wanted to puke. But it did stick, so...
Where do people sign up? Where do people sign up?
It's on, again, the events aren't live yet, but you can go to hmgspsw.org and sign up as soon as that comes, or you can just send us an email and we'll put you on the list. It's pretty inexpensive. I think it's like $20 a day or something.
Remind me where it's taking place again.
It is right above Disneyland at the Howard Johnson's. That's on Harbor Boulevard, I want to say exactly. So it's for those people that like Phil that are down in the OC area, it's relatively close. For Mark, it's might as well be Saturn, and for me,
it's a little bit of an adventure.
Mars, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an adventure.
So, Paul, are you running any events there or anything? Or?
I'm not. Again, I will be next year. This year is my crazy year. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm getting things settled and fixed up. Like the podcast. We're going to get like some amazing stuff next episode.
That's right.
So where are we next, Mark? Phil?
Well, we've covered the current events and the future events. So I think that brings us to our topic for tonight, which is Bolt Action 3.0. So that is due out fairly soon, and for the last 3 weeks, and for all, I think, future Wednesdays going forward before release, Warlord Games has been posting little previews of some of the rules that are coming up in Bolt Action 3.0 that are different in the current version. So the first 3 that they've done are list building, machine guns, and then the shooting phase.
Oh, and then special rules. They did special rules last Wednesday.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I guess Paul, it sounds like you've read them all. Mark, have you been keeping up with these?
You know what? I sort of tuned out because I was getting a little bit turned off by people making these wish list kind of lists and stuff and saying that what they're going to do. And so I just decided it's going to be Christmas Day and I'm going to get the book and open it up and get it reality, see what's really happening.
I don't know. I thought gamers were supposed to be wound up and really angry by the time the book comes out. I thought that's how we're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm not living that life anymore, Phil.
All right. So I guess I'll ask. So Paul, since you have looked at some of these, how have these jumped out to you? Anything interesting so far?
Well, yeah, the thing that has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way with bolt action is the idea of snipers, flamethrowers, special weapons teams being the auto include in guys' lists, and to the point where like I'm going to take 7 Su-57s, and you're like, what? No, this is just weird. So I think those people are like trying to win, and that's great, but it's outside of, for me, the outside of the format of what the game represents. And so like when I ran my only tournament I ran, I made a list of things you could take in your list, and you didn't have to. You could bring a min-max list, but if there was a tie, you'd lose if your opponent had used a historical list. And everyone was fine with it. It never popped up its ugly head, and the min-max people didn't show up. Everyone brought pretty nice rounded lists. You were there, right, Mark?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so I really appreciate them going towards that. What they're doing is they've turned the reinforced platoon into strictly a platoon. So now you can have 2 mortars, which is what everyone did. You would, position yourself with your mortars behind you, and if the world got crazy, you would retreat and your mortars would cover fire for you. You could never do that in bolt action V2 or V1. So now that's a real tactic that you can use. Also, you can take an engineer unit and bring in lots of flamethrowers, but you're specialized. You have that, you put a lot of cookies or a lot of eggs in one basket. And I think that's what they're trying to show, is that what you want to do is have several platoons and not max them out, but min them out so that they, for example, that everyone's yelling, I can take 5 vehicles, okay, it's still going to be incredibly expensive. I know that because I listened to one of the playtesters, and he's like, don't worry, not going to happen. Vehicles are expensive, don't worry about it. So I was like, yay. So the thing is that everyone used to take an armored car and a vehicle, which happens to be the min of the battalion, of the unit. That happens to be what activates it, is you get a command vehicle, which can be, for like the Germans, you can have a very simple half-track as your command vehicle, because they did leak that all vehicles would be able to be command vehicles. Even like if you wanted to take 2 Panthers, one would be a command vehicle for 10 extra points, and the other would be the non-command vehicle, the subordinate, if you will. So I'm excited for that. Now there's a lot of people going, oh, it's 1940K. Yes, you can bring that analogy in, but anyone that's played 40K knows 40K is all about heavy-duty gamers, and I can take 50 of these units, so I will, and I will find a way around it in the rules, and then they'll nerf that, and so then there's a bunch of people who just run around trying to find the loopholes and make armies out of them. I didn't realize this, but I heard from the playtesters that the moment V2 dropped, they started playtesting V3, which I thought was really interesting. So he said they've had 3 years of playtesting, and they played. Yeah.
I mean, I would say I think they have listed some of the tournament players for bolt action, because some of the lists that were popular were the stewards with all the machine guns and stuff like that, and they've changed how machine guns work now. So, I mean, machine guns get an extra shot, but machine guns on vehicles only get half the shots of a person-held machine gun. So if you're driving around in your tank, you're not going to be shooting as accurately with a machine gun as someone on the ground.
Also realize that if you're in a tank, you're looking in this to see with your machine gun sighting. When I'm on a machine gun, I can.
Am I wrong about this? It seemed like they've added an acquire a hit factor for tanks and anti-tank guns. So like if you didn't move and you're shooting at the same target, you get a plus on your shooting, like an acquire, basically, like you've targeted that. Is that wrong? Because it seemed like there was
I don't remember hearing that.
Well,
okay,
it's
'cause
under the
there's-
shoot. What he's referring to is anti-tank guns when firing at vehicles,
Yeah.
including vehicle guns that are anti-tank.
Because when it says
capable.
when you put it on a fire order, which I assume means you didn't move before or
Mhm,
something,
mhm.
right?
Right.
So that means to me it's more like an acquire from almost squad leader, where
No, I
you
mean,
you know.
it's anytime you shoot. If you're shooting at a vehicle, you get +1. So it's easier for anti-tank guns to shoot vehicles than it is for them to shoot people.
But I was thinking because it says fire there, you can't advance and fire, right? And
So
you would.
I think it's fire, ambush. Is it advance as well? I'm not sure.
There's an advance order, yes.
No, I'm saying,
Yep.
do you get the? I think you get the +1 mark if you advance,
Oh,
but it gets
okay.
canceled out because you're moving. So
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
got
it
it.
washes
This
there.
is one of the special rules that just showed up in the latest one. Anti-tank guns get an additional +1 modifier to hit vehicles when shooting with a fire order, including ambush and reaction fire.
Okay,
So it doesn't
not
say
advance.
advance.
So
Not
you're right,
advance,
Mark.
no.
You're right, Mark.
So that makes more sense to me that, a gun has been sitting there and targeting that you're going to get a better shot,
Now, what will gyro stabilizers do? I bet that will cancel that out.
Well, isn't it say anti-tank guns and tanks on that line?
Mhm.
All anti-tank guns from including those mounted on vehicles. So
Mhm.
yes.
So
I mean,
like a martyr,
Yeah.
it didn't move, is going to get a plus now, right?
Yes.
I mean, even yeah.
I
I
think
mean, I don't think we want to assume anything about gyro stabilizers. I mean,
Right.
Paul, earlier you said, well, you mentioned something about engineers containing flamethrowers. I don't know if that's still going to be the case anymore. That you could embed flamethrowers in engineers. That's an assumption because there's a new special rule for engineers.
Mm.
That kind of engineers in general in attacking buildings now. Whoever the people in the building do not get any defensive any cover bonuses. So that's a new rule.
That makes you want to hire engineers or
Yeah, so I mean, even with, so I don't know if they're still going to have flamethrowers. Flamethrowers are still listed as special units,
Sure.
in the same platoon structure as these engineers.
So
Well,
you're thinking the
technically-
flamethrower might go away entirely.
Technically, the German pioneers would have flamethrowers in their groups, wouldn't they?
I mean, it's not going to go away because if you look at the platoon, the engineering platoon, there's still an option for flamethrower teams. So they're still listed there. That was in the first preview that dropped for all the different teams. So they're engineering squads and then they're flamethrower teams, but I wouldn't assume that engineering squads could still contain flamethrowers. Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but they're changing things up. So
That's a great point, Phil. I think you're totally right that it might just go to be teams.
yeah,
And that's way more vulnerable because they got rid of the small team modifier too,
Yeah.
right?
yes, small teams are going away. A couple other modifiers are going away, and when you hit, it starts on a 4.